What's up, everybody? It's Anthony Does Real Estate. Thank you for tuning in today, and I got a very special video for you. Very excited. And today we're going to talk about what you need to look out for when buying land. I know you hear about buying land all the time on social media, and people just telling you, "Hey, just get your parcel of land, hold it, and it's going to appreciate." But there's a lot of things to look out for when it comes to buying land. It is not the easiest process if you don't know what you're looking for. And it's a lot of due diligence that goes into it. And it's different from buying a residential home. So like when buying a home, you're looking at location, granite countertops, is this in close proximity to a school if you have kids, and then shopping and things like that. And then with buying land, it's a little bit different because you're looking for proximity as well, depending on what you're planning on doing with the land. But there's stuff you need to know ahead of time, zoning, utilities, and things we're going to talk about today that's going to prepare you to make this purchase and make the right purchase, and you can stand behind that decision. So let's get into it. All right, so the very first thing you want to do when you're ready to buy some land is to get pre-approved. And it's going to be a slightly different process than what it is when you're buying a home, because when you buy a home, you can go to pretty much any big box lender, big bank, and get pre-approved for a loan. But with land is different. And so there are lenders out there that's going to loan for land, but land is a lot more riskier. So when buying a home, you're looking at 15 to 30-year mortgages, and typically, right now we're at what, the high 5% in interest rate. With land, a lot more riskier, so the interest rates are usually higher. They may be high sixes, high 7%, depending on how much you're putting down. And then also, the time frame is different. So instead of 15 to 30 years, it's usually 10 to 15 years. It's a lot shorter. So that's because the lenders who's going to loan you this money and furnish the loan is going to keep that loan for the life of the entirety until you pay it off. So like if you ever notice when you bought a home, right? And you get your first mortgage statement and it's coming from the lender that y'all talked about. And then maybe a couple months down the road, like 6 months down the road, you see that, oh, well, your mortgage provider has changed, and now you're going to be making your payments to such and such. And that's because they sold that loan to somebody else. And so that happens a lot when you're buying a home. But you don't see that in land. Whoever signing off on that loan to loan you for that land, typically they're going to hold that for the life of the loan. And so they're going to make sure that you got all your ducks in a row, and then you are more than qualified to pay for this. And so get pre-approved so that way you have peace of mind. You know exactly what you can afford and what to be looking for. All right. So next tip we're going to do is, okay, you pre-approved, congratulations. And so now you're looking online on Zillow and Realtor.com. You're looking at land that's for sale. And so when a listing comes up, you see a nice plot of land, the pictures look good. Oh, it's nice and flat, things like that. I'm looking at numbers. I'm looking at, okay, is it zoned correctly? The zoning, is it commercial? Is it residential? Is it unzoned? I need to know because according to my plan, the plan that I have to when I'm buying this land, I plan to build a home on it in 2 years. So I need it to be residential. And so I'm checking the zoning first to make sure that it's zoned correctly for what I'm trying to do. And so typically if you see like vacant land and a HOA or a community where homes are beside it, it's probably already zoned residential, which you ain't got to worry about talking to the city and trying to petition that and do all that stuff because it's a lengthy process if they let you do it. But if it's already zoned correctly, that's one of the first things I check. And then secondly, I'm going to start looking for utilities in the area, because if I'm putting a home out there, I need electricity, I need water, may need gas, depending on where I'm going to be. And so I need to check and see if those things are readily available, or I'm gonna have to go out and pay a company to reach further to get those things. And so, for example, when you're buy a plot of land, right, you want to see power lines in the area, knowing that you tip that electricity is close by, and then also with water. So the water main could be, the main water main could be on your side of the street or it could be across the street. And so if they have to go across the street and get that, they will have to bore up under the street and tap into that water main on the other side of the street. But the further out it is from your property, the more it's going to cost you to do it because they got to tap into that. It's not ran to your property yet. And so when they're doing all that stuff, they need the water main tapped and ran to your property for the plumbing, for the foundation. That costs you money. And so you want to know what's already out there, so that way you're prepared to know how much money you're going to spend, and just the logistics of everything, because everything costs, right. Electricity, water, gas, Is it going to be septic or not? And so that's talking to the county and talking to the utility services to see what they provide, who's the provider out there. Is it Encore? Is it somebody else? Talking to county and just seeing who's going to be servicing that area, because that's who you're going to be paying and that's who you're going to be working with to get the things done to build this home that you're going to build on this land. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, and probably the most important point I can stress today, is see if there's a survey on file. And so you can reach out to a local realtor like me, because that's one of the first things I check right when I'm looking at land or any property, but especially land, because I need to know what the boundary lines are. Now, yeah, you put a picture on Zillow and you draw the little lines on there on the picture that I see on the listing, but I need to see what's actually incorporated on there. And so that shows me the easements as well. So I'm looking at the easements to see if I want to put a pool on this land, it's going to show me where all the easements are. So maybe there's a pipeline going through the middle of it, or there's a utility easement going through the middle of it that's going to prevent me from building the home or building the swimming pool behind the home that I'm trying to do. So I need to know where every easement is and every property boundary line is to know what I can and cannot do. And on top of that, I need to look at the deed restrictions. And so the deed restrictions are something when these land is incorporated, they put these restrictions on the land that don't show up on the listing, but they're going to be like when you go to title and get the documents for all the documents that pertain to that plot of land, the deed restrictions are in there. And so the deed restrictions is going to tell you what you can and cannot do on the land. So this would be things like, oh, you can't have a mobile home, or you can't put an RV on the land, or if you build a home, it has to have this type of masonry, or a home has to be built within 2 years of the purchase of the land. And then if you buy the land, you within that 2 years you got to use a certain builder. And so it's like do's and don'ts of the land. And so I look for land that's very lightly deed restricted or no deed restrictions at all, so that way I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. And so I don't want to RV or anything like that, so that's fine. But if it's something that I want to buy and hold for 5 years minimum, but it's telling me I got to build in 2 years, then I'm probably not going to purchase that, because I would have to go back to the original owner who wrote those deed restrictions in and try to get them to change that. And if I don't feel like doing that, I don't feel like doing that. So I check the deed restrictions first in the survey. Once I find a plot of land that I like online, because I need to know what I'm up against and what I can and cannot do on the land to see if that's even an option for me, of something I'm going to move forward with. Now, I cannot stress that enough. Check the deed restrictions, because I will hate for you to start setting appointments with all these people, builders and contractors, and getting trades coming out there and paying money to the city and the county for permits and stuff to do all this stuff. And then the plan you have in your head to build a certain type of home with a certain type of amenities around it. And you can't do that because there's an easement in the back. And I just heard a story about that from a builder like 2 weeks ago. A guy had found a perfect plot of land, right? And then started building his home, already started the process, builders working and everything. And so there was some stuff he wanted in the backyard, like a ADU or a mother-in-law suite and swimming pool, and like it was going to be laid out. That was a forever home. But come to find out, there was an easement in the back of the property that was big, and it was right behind where his home was being built. That was going to prevent him from doing that. Like there is no way around it. Once that easement is there, it's there. And so he found out late. And so once he found out, the home wasn't even finished yet. Drywall was going up and stuff, but he was down. He was depressed and just sad because he wasn't able to finish out the vision that we were spending all this money for. And he was so sad to the point to where he just went ahead and turned around and started trying to sell the home unfinished. Like he was just like, I can't accomplish what I was trying to accomplish here. I spent all this money. It's a wash at this point. Like I'm not going to get what I came to get. And so I don't skip that step. Check the deed restrictions, because that's the information that can make you or break you when buying a plot of land. Okay, so last few points, I'm going to have to make a part two. I'm trying not to make this video too long, but just ask yourself these questions as you're looking at the listings. Is it an HOA or is it not an HOA? Because if it's in an HOA, then it's going to have to match the conformity of the community. And so you may want to build a modern farmhouse, and the HOA, none of the homes look like that. And they're like, nah, you got to have 70% this and 30% that. The roof has to be this type of roof. And that may not be what you set out to do or accomplish. And so just check those things. Some HOAs will probably match what you're trying to do, and some may not. You may not want to be in an HOA. So check and see if there's an HOA established first. Two, Is there any timber on it, or do you have timber rights or mineral rights? Nowadays, you don't really see mineral rights a lot in these real estate contracts, but it is a thing out there. And then timber rights, if you're buying the land with timber on it, you could retain the timber rights. And then once you buy that land, if you need some money, you can cut those trees and then sell that timber. You know what I'm saying? And that's some extra income that came with the property you can just sell. Okay. Also, check and see if it's ag exempt or not ag exempt. And so you can find that depending on how many acres you got, you can look at the qualifications in the county website. And so I know even like in Farmersville, that deals with Farmersville, does deals in Grayson County, done deals in Ellis County. And so all of the qualifications for ag exemption are different. Collin County as well. And so some will have you let you do 3 acres, and have this many cows or this many chickens to be ag exempt. And I say ag exempt because if you're buying like 10 acres, right? But you don't plan on building on it in 5 to 10 years or even 3 years, you're still paying that note every single month and taxes. And so if it's ag exempt, if there's some cattle on there or you can use some cattle on there, that can bring your taxes way down. And I've seen that come from you're supposed to be paying like $3,000, $4,000 a year, but you're only paying like $350 a year. Huge difference. Huge difference. Now I know the offset costs, you got cattle and stuff, but if you're trying to pay less taxes, ag exemption is something to look into, and then it's also something that's agriculturally sound. So you can have somebody else, like another farmer, rent out your land, use that for livestock or for bees or whatever, and then you get the ag exempt. They get what they're trying to get, and then everybody's happy. And so that's something to think about. Something to think about. It's not a make or break deal breaker, but it's something. If I have enough land, I'm like, let me see if it's ag exempt, because it may already be ag exempt, and we can keep those same arrangements in place when we do the land transfer and I buy the land. All right, thank y'all for spending time with me today. We're going to have more heat on the way, so I can keep y'all educated, informed, and empowered, so that way you can make these real estate transactions smooth and just be a blessing to you and your family. But before you go, my followers already know I got to share a word. So today we're going to talk about Proverbs 29 and 18, which reads, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." And this is basically just saying, have a plan for your life. And so just not just going through life aimlessly. Because you ever notice like you're doing something, you get a new job, or you're hanging out with different people, or you're trying something new and you just feel like, I'm not supposed to be here, or this is not for me. Like I'm destined to do more, you know what I'm saying? And so that goes to back to that purpose that God placed within you. Like, I can do more than this. I'm more creative than this. And so that's how it goes back to purpose and having a plan for your life. And so have a vision. The word tells us to write the vision down, make it plain. And so write the vision down, that purpose, praying and having that purpose placed inside of you, asking the Lord what that is and what you're here to do and accomplish while you're here on earth, is going to help you a lot further in life. And it's almost like in business. In business, they're always telling you to know what your why is. Why are you doing this? Why are you starting this business? Why not start something like this? Or why are you going to this job? Or why are you trying to get this degree? What are you trying to accomplish, and what is the why behind that? So that way, when things get tough, you can always go back to that why. Like, okay, so this is why I'm doing this, and so I'm not letting nothing deter me from that. And so that's the same thing for your life, having a plan for your life. And so when things get shaky, when things get rocky, when things look like people are advancing quicker than you, or people are accomplishing more than you, though they're not, that's not your plan, their plan for your life. You got to stick to your plan. You can always go back to that why and know that I'm on the right track. I'm doing the right thing. It may take me longer than I wanted to, but I'm going to get there. Okay. So I hope that bless you. Let's get this body's land. Let's keep doing these real estate transactions, and let's just make sure that we're making well-informed decisions and being intentional. So that way we're not wasting any money. We're not wasting any time, and we're coming out on top every single time. All right. Y'all have a blessed day. Catch you in the next one.